This hangout on air is live at exactly 8 p.m. This is the first time we've been on time, I think. So here we go. All right. Ready? Here we go.
Ready. Go.
Good evening, fangirls and fanboys. It is episode 78 of the Electric Fan Cave on electricfeast.com, and it is so nice to be here chatting with you fine folks on the interwebs. We have the amazing Seth Millstein with us tonight to talk all the pop culture things. You know him as that guy writing for Bustle, The Daily, Timeline, and so on. We know him as the funniest guy in the room. And also,
thank you.
the guy with the best and the worst puns. Tonight we're going to talk about movie trailers for Mockingjay, The Good Dinosaur, and Spectre. We're going to discuss more movie news, like why the suffragette cast needs a lesson in intersectionality, and why you might not want to go see The Walk in theaters. Plus, Will Smith has a new single, animals have returned to Chernobyl, and Chris Pratt's son named a penguin after a different animal. But enough introduction. Let's get this show on the road.
Hello.
Hey, you guys.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm ridiculously excited to be here.
Yay! We're so excited to have you here. For those of you who don't know us personally, I have known Seth since I was a teenager, since we were wee high school kids, going back a long ways. So now we have both turned 30 in the past month.
Yeah. Within the same 24 hours, in fact.
Yes, this is very true. Our birthdays are one day apart, so
yes.
We are both new to the 30 club. How's it treating you so far, Seth?
It's actually been great. I remember before, in the probably month before I turned 30, I felt like the image I kept getting in my head was like a plane with like one of the engines on fire and like the wing is falling off, like sputtering to a land. Like that's how I felt coming into my 30s. But it sounds corny. I feel like I don't know if I can extend it to this analogy, but it's as if the plane suddenly.
Let's try. Yeah.
The plane suddenly crossed that line and healed itself and became a beautiful, wonderful luxury jet that's just cruising through the air effortlessly. I feel awesome. It was
Stuck
rough.
the landing then, huh?
Stuck the landing.
Exactly.
I don't know if that's an airplane term, actually.
I don't
that's
think
a
it is
gymnastics
either.
term.
You had me fooled. It sounded like one.
We did not stick the landing of that analogy,
No,
but
we did not.
Okay.
But no,
As happens with most of my analogies.
They sputter out midway, like the jet that was. Now that
was your 29th year.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it was good. 30's going great. I'm feeling awesome about it. How about you?
Oh yeah, I feel great about 30. Well, aside from the fact that 30 is ringing in my PhD exams, which is a terrible time of life, but I still feel like 30 is a good thing. You know, it's a little weird because here's my thing that I think this at every milestone age. It doesn't really matter what it is, whether it was like 18, 21, 25, 30, whatever. Is that like I always feel like now it's not really special if I do anything. Like nobody thinks it's cool if you're like, oh, she wrote a novel at 30. Like,
right.
So everybody writes a novel at 30. Who writes a novel at 25? That's really something to talk about. So it's getting past that. I'll never be like the young person who accomplished.
No, I see. I think I'm pretty much older than most of my idols were when they accomplished the thing that made them my idol.
Yeah. Now I love those lists that tell you like, hey, this person didn't do crap until they were 45, and I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, exactly.
They'll do something. When you read those lists, it's like you're 30. You have to stop using these words now, and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not as old as you guys, so I can still use all those words.
And
I'm still in my prime. So
yeah, obviously.
I still have another 6 months,
Yeah.
I, on the other hand, have known Seth for like how many years have you been married, Corey?
It's like 6.5 now.
I've known Seth for 6.5 years. We met at Corey's wedding.
I showed up to that wedding. I still can't believe I did this. I showed up without any plan of where to stay. I didn't know how to get to the venue. I didn't know the bus lines. I just showed up in Oregon.
Don't worry though. Seth met, you guys, this is a lesson to you. Seth met then a table of beautiful blonde women who invited him to come back to our house and stay with us.
It was basically Love Actually. Is what
it totally was. You might think that's unrealistic, but it totally happened.
Yeah, no, definitely. And that was that was when I met Kristen, and it was I'm glad that I wouldn't go back and change anything about how I didn't plan for that trip because everything turned out well.
Turned out good.
In retrospect, I realized, maybe I should figure out where I'm going to sleep when I go places.
Well, you know, that's a lesson we all have to learn the hard way. We were 23. We were
When
23 years old.
It's different. When you're 30, 30-year-old Seth would probably book a hotel or an Airbnb at this point.
Yeah, I think so. Or at least try to meet some random person earlier in the day.
Maybe Craigslist. I don't know. The case maybe. I want to do what you should do is if you need to stay somewhere, like surf Craigslist missed connections and be like, I'm not the person you're looking for, but I can
you seem like an open-minded.
That is an episode of Law & Order SVU just waiting to happen. Absolutely not. Do not take that advice, Seth.
None of us are actually promoting that idea. Well, maybe Corey is. I didn't mean to speak for you.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I stand by it.
No, the Fancave does not endorse this idea. Let's just be real. And mothers everywhere do not endorse this idea.
No, but me and Gaucho over here, we endorse it. Me and Creeper Dog definitely endorse that. Will you put my glass to the... Sorry, talking to Keo.
Oh, it's like, or Creeper Dog's going to put your glass somewhere for you. You've taught him well.
No, I have an in-home wine delivery service here, so, you know.
Ooh, I need one of those.
Yeah. It's what you get. That's after 6.5 years. Anyways, so anything interesting going on in your lives, Kristen? What about you? What's happening in your 29-year-old life?
Well, my brother bought a house because he's more of an adult than I am.
Wow,
so.
Good job, Chad.
Yeah, good for him. And so I actually spent the weekend helping him get that house ready. So I power sanded floors and stained his hardwood floors all weekend, which was fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so
and
that's actually
Laverne?
being fun. He's actually not in Laverne. He's in Upland, which is near Laverne. So I should have just said yes, because you're not going to know where that is.
No, not so much.
So he was there, and so that was really fun, and we did that. So I learned some new skills. I learned how to power sand hardwood floors. And how to stain wood. So we stained and did all that good stuff. So
the power sanding sounds more interesting than staining.
It was really not my favorite thing, honestly. It's like my whole body still kind of hurts, which is weird. Probably because I'm so old now, but
exactly.
You're
just
not that
like
old.
Normal life at this point is just like a little harder.
Well, plus I joined a gym, so we already know that I'm like a wuss as it goes. I'm like, never been in a gym in my life, and all of a sudden I'm like, well, let's work out and power sand. I'm like, what am I doing?
I know. I managed to this week at the gym. I was like really excited because I'm like, now I can like punch things, and I don't like hurt for 4 days afterwards. But then here's the most geriatric thing I've ever done. I put I have like orthotics type things in my shoes.
Oh, you're so cute.
I know, and I put them in wrong and basically like broke my feet. And so I haven't been able to walk as a result of this. I'm like, oh my god, just hand me the Ensure with a straw, and that's...
Let me just take my teeth out really quick.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't know who I think I'm fooling, trying to think I can box when this is what happens, but there you go. There you go. That's this week. I've spent a little time in the movie theater this week, though, and so we'll lead into our first segment here, but I went and saw Everest the other day.
How was that?
It was very sad, but it was really good. Really good. It was actually, I came home afterwards and I was like, I learned so much from this. Like, that I wasn't expecting. Seth, did you see it?
No, I didn't. I remember the trailer, and the thing that the trailer kind of reminded me of, there's a part where one of the guys is like, they're like at base camp, and he's like sipping a coffee. He's like, hey, climatize. And it reminded me that to me the most appealing part of mountain climbing is like hanging out at base camp when you're not actually
right.
That
part where you're not potentially going to die.
Yeah, where you're not climbing, where you're just hanging out in a tent, sort of sipping hot chocolate and shooting shit.
Right. That's what I was thinking, because they have all these people who are at base camp the entire time that like call up and down, and they, if there's an emergency, they send more oxygen and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, see, that's cool. They're just sitting their ears probably popped and they were a little motion sick or whatever for a day or two, but they're just chilling and they're still on Everest. Like, that's cool enough for me. I don't need to nearly die. That's not a thing I need. And like half of the cast of this dies because it's a true story.
Oh, gosh.
And I already knew this because I'd read about it before. And like I had that thought. But I didn't realize, because I've never read John Krakauer's Into Thin Air, I didn't know that he was actually on this trip. And so that was like, I was like, I thought he was just writing about it, like his other books, like Under the Banner of Heaven and
it was
Into the Wild.
I only read a little bit of Into Thin Air. I actually left it at someone's house and never finished it. But it's I know. But it was kind of funny that not funny. It was tragic. But
it was hilarious. Almost everybody died.
It was so funny. There happened to be this like super talented writer who was on this kind of once in a lifetime thing, so he was able to document it. If you, I know this isn't on the docket, so we don't have to spend time with it, but Corey, if you would like a movie to cheer you up after Everest, I might recommend The Intern.
I want to see The Intern. I'm not gonna lie.
Telling me how much she loved that movie. She legit, like right before we started.
I mean, I am like so far from the target audience of that movie. I don't like sort of light, fluffy romantic comedies, but that movie, like, it has heart in like a really big way, and it's it's nice to see a movie that is this isn't ruining anything, but that is ultimately about sweet people trying to treat each other well, and in an honest, not cheesy way. It was one of the first sort of like genuinely feel good movies I've seen in a while. I totally recommend that one. Yeah.
Good. Then I will absolutely see that movie. If nothing else, I'll see it when like I can rent it on Amazon. But I would love to see that one. It's one of those ones that every time I think about saying like I'd kind of like to go see The Intern, I just imagine the like wave of judgment that's going to hit me.
I saw it with my dad, who's unabashedly loves romantic comedies. Like the PG-13 romantic comedy is his favorite genre. So he was a happy companion.
I love that. I'm such a big fan of that, and it's a genre we don't see a lot of at this point in time. So I do think that there's something for, as opposed to like a decade and a half ago where it was like oversaturated market of romantic comedies and things like that. And I was like, ugh. Now it's kind of a relief when you get to see one. It's just something
it's nice.
Different.
So on the wave of movies of people trying to do good, I would say The Martian was also though probably more stressful than The Intern, I would assume. But I think in a similar vein of like everybody's coming together to try to help this dude that's stranded on Mars. And the people who are like the quintessential bad guys in movies, like the Russians and the Chinese are always like the big bad. It's like no, even they are like this is worth it to come and help this guy, and
they're conspiring to help him against probably the wills of their governments and things like that.
It was anyway. I liked it.
I hope this doesn't screw up the podcast. I didn't actually see The Martian yet. It's been sorry.
Gosh, you're fired. Go home, Seth.
All right. Well, it's been great, guys.
That's okay. That's okay. You weren't. We had read the book for our Fancave Fiction Club, so we were The book is delightful. Highly recommend it. It's a quick read, so that's always a plus. Although, Seth, it was you who was commenting that you thought it was crazy that I read books in a day, right?
That blows my mind. That is, I have never in my life finished a book in a day. I once finished a book in a week, and that felt like it still feels like one of the crowning accomplishments of my life.
Now, are you a slow reader? Are you like distracted? Do you do it on purpose?
No, I'm a slow reader. I love reading, but I'm very slow at it. And the book that took me a week was what's that guy's name? Ben Mesrick, the guy who writes. He wrote the book that The Social Network was based on.
Oh, I didn't even know that was a book till it was a question on Jeopardy like 3 days ago.
Yeah, I mean he's like one of the poppiest writers. It's like how 6 MIT grads beat the odds of Vegas.
Sure. Yeah.
Anyway, so I probably wouldn't read it as quickly as you, but I've heard very good things about The Martian. You're the second person I think to tell me the book is excellent.
Yes.
Yeah. And the one thing I will say for watching the movie is I liked it, but I think I'll love it the second time I see it, because this always happens whenever I have just read a book and then gone and see it. So like I read the first Hunger Games and I had read it already, but I reread it the night of the premiere. So I spent that morning reading the book and then went to the premiere that night, and I was like, I I'm not as into this as I want to be because I'm thinking about all the other details that are left out of it and things like that. And so there were all these times in The Martian, like including one of my favorite moments in the entire book that they changed in the movie that I was like, oh, come on. Yeah. Like, Kristen, you know, is the part where where he's like, what must he be thinking about up there? And then when they what they did in the movie wasn't nearly as funny as what was in the book. And I was like, But regardless, it was still phenomenal and fun to watch and like uplifting, like Kristen said, where you're just like, here's all these people trying to come together and, do good for one.
Yeah, I thought it was. I mean, I know this has been remarked upon before. I thought it's funny that there were 2 movies featuring Matt Damon being rescued, stranded on a planet after Interstellar, kind of in a row.
One in which he's a dick and one in which he's the good guy.
I was gathering that he was probably a good guy in The Martian.
Yes. Well, and then my friend had sent me this link a while ago, and I just watched it last night. Adam Savage, right, from Mythbusters fame, has like a little podcasty type deal that he does called The Talking Room, and he interviewed Andy Weir. So as you can imagine, this is Adam Savage's probably now favorite book in the history of time.
Sure.
Like, he could not have been more in love with Andy Weir when Andy was sitting there, which I thought was just so wonderful. So it's like at the level that Andy is nerding out over like the fact that he just in his spare time was daydreaming about a manned mission to Mars. Like, that's what he does because he's a computer programmer, and he's like, I'm just like really nerdy. That's what he says. He's the most adorable man in the history of time. And so he's like sitting, and while he's kind of like saying all of these things, and I don't even understand half of them, but I'm just smiling because he's so nerdy. And Adam Savage is just staring. It's like Adam Savage loves him as much as Andy Weir loves space, And it was like this like cutest, most wonderful interaction. And every time Andy Weir, and Adam would be like, oh, that's so cool. And he's like, oh, and I got to go to JPL and like sit in the launch chairs and like take pictures, and I was like, oh my god, you're so adorable. I can't even handle it. I just want to hug you.
There's something really fun about watching celebrities geek out about other celebrities.
Yes. I know, right?
And Andy Weir isn't even a celebrity. He's just he's just he's like the guy that lives next door to you with all the cats that's like loves space and tells you facts you don't care about.
Right, like you couldn't get him to shut up if you tried. He doesn't read when you're uninterested about it because he's so excited. Everybody must be.
But the thing was, like, I was so excited about watching him talk about this thing. It was just wonderful. So even that in itself, I was like, watch this interview. Well, I don't want to watch it because it'll kind of ruin some of the movie in the book. But read the book and then watch this interview and then see the movie, and it'll just kind of, it's a whole picture of wonderfulness. So
that's a big order of operations you have to go through there.
It's like in like 3 months, Seth will check back in with us that he's done all these things.
Yeah, you've done all your homework.
That's an optimistic.
No, I did mean to watch that interview and I just didn't get a chance to. But I mean, this is what we're about. Clearly, anyone who watches this podcast, it's like people being positive about stuff and being enthusiastic about stuff is the best thing in the world. And so I love that kind of vibe. Like you said, Seth, celebrities geeking out on celebrities is hilarious.
It's one of the best parts of Zombieland is when Woody Harrelson meets Bill Murray and he loses it.
It's so good. And we talked about, a million years ago on here, Jennifer Lawrence, when she meets Jeff Bridges, and she starts interviewing him. It's like, what's your favorite role? Does it rhyme with the schmood? I love it. It's just, it makes me happy. That's all. We're all just people on this planet.
It's like anytime Stephen Colbert talks about or interviews anybody that has to do with Lord of the Rings or anything, that's always one of my favorites.
With what? Sorry.
Whenever he talks about Lord of the Rings.
Oh, yes.
That's always one of my favorite things, too, because he's like, I don't know, he's also just an unabashed.
He's on, like, next level nerdery when it comes to that stuff.
It's one of those things where it's just people who are passionate about things. I've got a friend who likes really weird things, and I'm like, I don't even understand what you're talking about, but you are so excited. I'm totally going to sit here and listen to you ramble for like the next 10 minutes.
Or like our dear little 5-year-old or 6-year-old now friend Owen, talking about Star Wars a couple weeks ago.
Owen today actually stopped me at work. He goes, Kristen! I was like, oh, hey, he goes, Mom, are we going to do more podcasts about Star Wars after the movie comes out? And I was like, yes. He goes, so I can come on and talk about the movie after I see it? And I was like, yes. And he's like, yay! And then he ran off, and I was like,
oh my gosh, I can't wait.
Your face just went through like 5 or 6 remarkable expressions as Kristen is telling that story.
It's just so cute. He's an adorable little boy. He's also probably largely looking forward to more cookies and milk because Kristen let him gorge himself during our podcast.
I've learned now. You guys, I don't have children. I don't know what their deal was. Yeah. I've learned. So, but it was funny because his mom even said, like, I've never let him eat that much, like, sugar in his life. And I'm like,
Owen is just like, Owen's sitting there just like, the limit does not exist.
It's not surprising.
So glad I didn't put the whole box out. I almost just set the box out. I was like, oh, put it on a plate. That'll be nice, you know? Can you imagine? I would have had him be like, Owen, stop. He's going to throw up.
Speaking of cookies, I impulsively bought some pumpkin spice Oreos.
How is that?
That sounds like a mistake.
It's great for like half an Oreo.
Okay.
No.
That's sort of the limit. It's pretty shockingly sweet.
Yeah, see, I've tried the they put out also like pumpkin spice M&Ms, and that was one of the grossest things I've ever tasted. And like, the pumpkin spice thing is getting out of control. You can't just do it to everything.
I heard they did pumpkin spice cookie butter at Trader Joe's.
Oh, okay. Yes, please.
Oh my god, I love that.
BRB, you guys, I'm going to TJ's.
Pause the podcast.
Seriously, that sounds amazing. That I will try. I will definitely give a go. So we'll report back to you all on how pumpkin spice cookie butter goes.
Absolutely.
I can't imagine going wrong with that. So other than The Martian, we've got some trailers that have come out this week. So what do we got? What's on the docket?
Well, the first one, not quite as a feel-good, probably more of a downer, is Mockingjay Part 2.
Oh,
Let's be real.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, both good and bad, obviously. This one is a little frantic in the, I don't know, what do you want to call it? Whatever's happening. It's frantic.
Yeah,
it's one of those ones where there's not enough time on each frame that they show you to really kind of know, other than whatever those monsters are that are chasing them are horrifying.
Yes.
But other than so there's not a whole lot more. I think it's just more of like they know people are going to see it.
Right. At this point, it's just reminding us that this comes out in a couple weeks.
Right. So don't forget. You might have forgotten because we haven't released a trailer in a while. But this is
you do get to see a little bit more of kind of. I mean, if you know, I guess that's the thing. I think coming from a base of knowing what is happening in this, it makes more sense. But I guess if you had no idea what this movie is going to entail, you wouldn't be able to tell because you see. I mean, because what ends up sort of happening in this is like the city turning into a Hunger Games set of like obstacles, more or less, and so you see some of that happening in this, like them racing against the things that are like falling behind them, and like you said, creatures chasing people, and all of that. So at the end of it, I could not help but like just throw up my Hunger Games salute in the theater as I watched it. I was like, I'm so excited! But Seth, do you watch these films at all?
I saw half of the first one. Something about it didn't totally grab me.
Okay, that's fair.
I'd like to give it another shot. I will say, I think I'm probably in the minority opinion here. I am a big fan of Divergent.
What the?
I know. No.
What is wrong with you, Seth?
No one agrees with me on this one. And what was the sequel? Insurgent,
and Allegiance, the last one.
I like the second one too. I don't know what it is. I think I just kind of like Shailene Woodley. I find her charming. I don't know. And the thing is that I love Jennifer Lawrence too.
Yeah, of course.
I shouldn't really talk about the first one because I didn't finish it, but I remember feeling like I didn't showcase her strengths as much as most of her other roles.
That's fair. I can grant you that.
I should watch it again. I like that they all have purple hair and green hair, and the aristocrats kind of all dressed ridiculously. That was
I like the idea of the Capitol, and the movies get better. I think
like
totally the first one. I liked the first one. Like I said, the first time I watched it, I wasn't super into it, but then I liked it. And then Catching Fire was great. And then I actually, when you bought a movie ticket, if you bought it within the first 24 hours for the new one, they gave you a digital download of the first Mockingjay. So I rewatched it the other day, and as I put it when that film came out, I was like, this is a straight up war movie. This isn't just like where the the other ones are, you're focused on the games and all this kind of stuff, but this is a battle. This is what it's like when you have propaganda and the negative and positive of that kind of stuff, and
interesting.
The death toll and all of this is like really visceral in the third one. So I'm excited for the fourth and to see what they do with it, because they're better than the books too. I imagine like Divergent, at least the books are so bad that the movies couldn't be worse than the books. But Hunger Games actually like really brings the next level from the books.
I did really like that they split one book into two movies.
You did or didn't like that?
I do, because
you do. Okay.
Because it's like you were saying before, they whenever they translate a.
Uh-oh. Did he stop moving for you?
Yeah, he did.
Ah, no! Seth!
Come back to us, Seth!
We're having some technical difficulties with our third party here, so all apologies. Hopefully he'll return
and finish his thought.
About that. In the meantime, Kristen, any other thoughts on that Mockingjay?
I mean, obviously, like I said, I was already excited. You're right. It was just more of like, okay, this is happening. I'm still excited. So
yeah, and it did what it was supposed to do, because really, I keep forgetting how close we are to it coming out, and so seeing that trailer, I'm like, oh my God, this is like mere weeks from now. Right. That's crazy. Oh, there we go. Now we have two sets.
Two sets.
The more sets, the merrier.
Sorry, but my internet's a little wonky. That might happen again, but I'll be right back in if it does. So, sorry.
No worries. We were vamping. Yeah. We were trying to, talk around it. So you were saying about splitting the books.
I do. Yeah, I like that they split it up into two, because like you were saying, whenever they do a book to movie, they always have to cut some stuff out. So it's cool. They just hey, why not just give ourselves twice as much time?
Yeah. Here's my thing though with Divergent. The Allegiant book needs to it's 450 pages or something like that. Mm-hmm. It could be 75 and be a full book. Like it is literally. It took me, Seth. I read books in a day regularly. It took me a year and a half to read Allegiant. It was so excruciating to read. It took me a year and a half. So
yeah, I have no excuse for why I liked it. I really.
I mean, you're allowed. I like terrible things all the time.
Yeah, as do I. Somehow it avoided all the landmines it could have, and it was kind of fun.
That's okay. It's all right. We don't expect these kinds of movies necessarily to be works of brilliance anyway. Right. So sometimes it's like you go and you're entertained enough, and that's what you need. My complaint always about Divergent as opposed to Hunger Games is that Divergent doesn't mean anything. Because it's like, what is this related to in our real world? Like, what does being sorted into factions based on a personality trait reflect about our culture or anything like that?
No, for sure. Yeah, that's because that isn't the world we live in at all.
It's not.
It seems like a weird commentary almost against like communism, but like.
Yeah, maybe
because it's like you have your one thing that the government puts you in, and that's what you do. But we don't live in a communist society, so it's sort of a weird.
I think you're giving this a little bit too much credit here. I don't think she's really going that far with it. She's probably like factions.
Yeah, you may be right. Yeah.
Yeah. The Veronica Roth, the girl who wrote it, she was like writing it during her MA in creative writing, and she's like from like a conservative Christian background, all that kind of stuff, and I'm like, okay, so maybe that's part of the attack on communism right there. Some deeply ingrained conservatism. I don't know,
maybe
but
it's in her subconscious.
There you go.
It's also a weird. I feel like it's kind of a fundamentally flawed premise, Divergent, because the idea is like, there's like these 5 different societies you can live in, and you take this little test that tells you which one you should go into, but then you have the option of choosing, even no matter what your test said, so then that takes a lot of the drama away from the test since it's non-binding and doesn't really mean
sorry, so you liked Divergent better than Hunger Games, though, right? That's what I'm hearing. Although
to be fair, he's only seen half of it.
It's fundamentally flawed and may or may not be about communism or whatever. But he liked it better than Hunger Games.
Sometimes against all logic and evidence, you like something, and that's how I feel about Divergent.
That's okay. That's valid. There are things that people would say that probably about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Watch, so.
We also got a longer trailer for The Good Dinosaur. Kristen, does this help your opinion? Does it stay the same? Is it worse?
It did help it a little bit. I liked how they've now they've made it whereas like the child is the pet. Yeah. And the dinosaur is the like person or whatever. So in the first trailer, I think I said, well, this tells me nothing. It looks kind of boring and lame. But then I'm like, okay, actually, and the little kid is kind of cute where he's like, the dinosaur's like, oh, I'm so lonely, and he's like petting. It's like just kind of adorable, and I'm like, I don't know, I like it.
It's cute.
It looked cute, and actually, it sounds like Sam Elliott is voicing the T-Rex.
Oh,
which I am 100% behind because he was talking like, I know that voice, and then he like drawled a little bit more. Oh yeah, yeah, I do.
Okay, that's great. I didn't catch that.
And this is happening. And so that's almost reason enough for me to see it because I'm an old lady and I love it.
True. Well, Seth, what do you think?
I mean, I actually, the first trailer, there's not much there, I agree. There's one joke that I really liked where, in the teaser, where it says, like, asteroid destroyed the dinosaurs, but what if it didn't? And it has a shot of all the Brontosaurus eating, and then it just whizzes. And they all look up for like a second and then look back down. I've watched that like 3 times. That made hysterics.
That was, I mean, the very first teaser or whatever they showed had that in it, and that was, while Kristen was underwhelmed mostly by the original teaser, we agreed that was hilarious.
Yeah. I think it looks super cute. It could go either way. Like I remember I kind of liked the music in the trailer, and it was a very well done trailer, which you can never totally be sure if it's going to translate to a well done film. But I'm seeing it though. It looks super.
Yeah, I want to say like with this, it's sometimes with a Pixar movie you can tell right out the gate like what its appeal is going to be. So when you see like an ad for Inside Out, for example, like you knew what was going to happen in this and where it was going to hit you in the feels and, how this is going to appeal to, like, a broad audience. With The Good Dinosaur, it feels almost like this is going to be really cute. I don't know that it necessarily has, like, the emotional impact or anything that, like, a lot of the other Pixar films have. Yeah. But, I mean, it's early yet, and we'll see. But I think across the board, generally, for most people, going to see a Pixar movie is a safe bet. Like, the only one I haven't liked was, like, Cars. Other than that.
I haven't seen Cars.
It's because you're a grown-up, and grown-ups don't like Cars. That's why. It's like one of the very few Pixar films that just doesn't work across age range.
I'm sort of a dissenting opinion on Pixar.
Oh really?
I mean, some of their stuff I absolutely love, and there's really nothing of theirs that I dislike strongly, but there's a couple that I was never charmed by Toy Story.
By Toy Story?
I know, and it's really, I saw that movie. I saw a sneak preview of that movie before it came out when I was.
You're a Bay Area kid.
Yeah. Pixar is just around the corner. And I didn't really like it then.
No kidding.
I don't know what it is. I mean,
Well, Seth, that's strike 2. Just saying.
I know, that's strike. Yeah.
You are on the edge, sir.
You are teetering dangerously close.
Monsters, Inc. is wonderful. That's one of my favorites.
I thought you were gonna say. I was like, Monsters, Inc. seems like one you'd love.
I almost kicked you off at that point. I'm like, okay, we're done.
Monsters, Inc. is golden.
You don't get Monsters, Inc.
Incredibles is golden. Inside Out is just on another level of quality. Yeah. I felt like Inside Out should be like shown to maybe not everybody, but like maybe everybody, because
pretty much everybody.
It's one of the most like emotionally insightful films I've ever seen. It's staggeringly good.
Yeah, absolutely. We're playing that at the theater that I don't know if I told you this, Seth, but this quarter the class that I'm teaching is about exhibition, and so we run screenings on Mondays and Friday nights at the local movie theater. Cool. So this week we're screening Inside Out, and I'm so excited because like there are students in the class who haven't seen it, and I'm like, you have to go to this one.
Oh, that's great.
So good. Cool. So good. We came out of it, and my friend Juan was just like, best movie of the year, hands down. Nothing's going to beat it.
Yeah, I don't know if, did that come out? Yeah, that was 2015.
Yeah, it was a couple months ago, May maybe.
Yeah, that might be my favorite of the year. Mad Max might be up there too.
Okay, there you go. You just got your points back.
Oh my God, I'm excited to talk about Mad Max.
yes.
that movie too.
There's some Mad Max news coming.
Well, then we should, just because we mentioned Mad Max. Oh, sorry. Are we done? I don't want to move on.
Go for it. No, Kristen.
Just as a quick aside, we don't actually have this on the roster, but because we're talking about Mad Max, which made me think about Tom Hardy, there was a new Revenant trailer, so I don't know if you guys saw the first one or the second one or know what I'm talking about at all.
Well, we talked about it a couple weeks ago. So.
Okay.
I did not see it, no.
It's okay. So the first trailer was very confusing because it was one of those. It was like kind of a teaser-ish where you're like not really sure what's going on.
Yeah.
It looks
like a lot of heavy breathing.
There's a lot, and it made you breathe awkwardly. It was hard to watch. And so the second one gives you a little bit more of the plot. It looks like there's these outdoorsmen, and it looks terrible. I mean, it's like Jeremiah Johnson status. They're hairy. They live in this cold place. Leonardo DiCaprio gets mauled by a bear. And the guys, the group that he's with is with Tom Hardy's in it, and Tom Hardy wants to leave him. He's dying, he's not going to make it, let's just leave him. Leonardo DiCaprio has this son who's like, no, we need to not leave him, that's terrible. And so Tom Hardy goes to try and kill Leo DiCaprio, the son saves him, Tom Hardy then kills the son, buries them both. Leo doesn't die. Spoiler alert. So it looks like he's on a revenge mission to find Tom Hardy, who is unrecognizable. I wouldn't from the first trailer. I didn't even know he was in it until it said his name, and I was like, "What's happening?" And then even when he's talking, he's got that drawl that he's got this weird drawl that doesn't sound like Tom Hardy. His voice is 3 octaves deeper. And anyway, it looks very stressful. I don't know if I'm gonna see it, but it looks intense.
I know. I'm not sure. But
that sounds pretty stressful. I just saw a screen cap from it, and that stressed me out even a little bit.
So, I don't know, but anyway, there's a new trailer for it, so you guys should check it out.
Yeah. I just realized that I didn't have the Q&A thing open or anything like that, and have been ignoring people. So hi to Sean, who said hi on our thing. Ed, comment on the Q&A thing on the Google Plus or on the Facebook page, or on the Facebook post. That's a way to get in on it. Either one of those will work, or you can tweet at us. Either way. Brienne says the Divergent movie was an improvement over the books. Also, Jai Courtney.
No, that's true, Jai Courtney.
Touche there, Brie.
I'm having trouble seeing the Q&A. I clicked the Q&A button, but I just see one question.
Oh yeah. That's the only one that's there right now. The other things I'm getting off of Facebook and my phone.
Okay, cool.
And the one that's up there is, I was supposed to mention this. Duncan posted this one. So there's a Twitter account called Sarcastic Rover. The Mars rover is being sarcastic. I love tweets. Twitter's like this when they're witty. And so the Sarcastic Rover tweet that I wanted to reference in our discussion of The Martian said, everyone seems pretty excited about Matt Damon pretending to get stranded and left to die on Mars, which is fine. I don't care.
It's okay, Rover. We're sorry.
Rover. We're thinking of you. We're thinking of you, Rover. Yeah, that was a clever tweet. So thank you, Duncan, for reminding me of that excellence right there. It was good. So Revenant, looks super stressful, and I don't know if I'll see it in theaters or ever. I don't know. If someone invites me, I'll go probably.
Yeah, let's be real.
If at the end of the day, it's Tom Hardy.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh, I just love him so much. You know who I wish Tom Hardy was in?
What's that?
Spectre. Just kidding. I was trying to transition. It was lame.
No, I saw what you were doing. I saw the segue.
It would be really funny if Tom Hardy showed up as the homeless man that's actually a double agent or a 00 agent, but he sneaks some info to.
I would love that.
It's the pass off of the mantle, and he's like, I'm really a homeless dude, but secretly, here's your next mission.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah. We'll Kristen, you should be writing for them.
I know. That's what I keep telling them in all my letters, but they don't write it back.
Here's my thing. The Spectre trailer, I don't love it, and here's why. It's just a little generic to me.
Yeah,
it didn't have anything that really felt like this is going to be an epic Bond adventure. That's something really special, which I felt with Skyfall and things like that. That every time I watched the trailer, I was like, "Wow, this is gonna be some next level ish." And this just felt like any spy action movie to me.
I kind of felt the same way. It was. I mean, it wasn't. It looked like good action. It didn't look bad, but there was nothing to really stand out. I mean, I also this is maybe a little petty, but in Skyfall, they cast Javier Bardem is a villain after he plays a great villain in No Country for Old Men.
Right, yeah.
And now they cast Christoph Waltz as a villain after he plays a great villain in Inglourious Basterds. In everything. Yeah, it feels a little bit. I mean, it's you can you know.
Yeah, there's more actors than this who could be villains other than ones that you're just like, oh, people liked him in this. Let's do
it's also it's gonna be hard to top.
Rough.
I mean, I really liked Skyfall.
Yeah, me too.
It's that one. I mean, it had a sort of a thematic heft that a lot of the other ones didn't. I don't really think, because it's it's getting into like family and childhood and stuff. I'm wondering how they can possibly top that, or have it not just seem like, oh, okay, now he's a spy saving the world again,
Yeah, I almost feel like this could be amazing. Don't get me wrong. This may be an amazing movie, but my thought is, because of, like you said, that unusual heft of the last one, that it almost seems like that would have been the place that they should have left it and passed the mantle at that point, because it's like, all right, you've done this amazing arc with this one. Also, as I think I mentioned it last week and ranted about it a little bit, I think I'm also just a little bit colored by how much I hate the new theme song. And so it's like,
don't let that ruin the movie.
I'm a little biased.
Who did the new theme?
Sam Smith.
Yeah, Sam Smith.
Oh, ooh.
Yeah, it's
more of just like everyone was raving. He was like, "Oh, it's gonna be anyway." We were just more of like annoyed with like the whole release process was so pretentious. Yeah. It was like, oh, he's like for months he's like, "Oh, I didn't do it. I didn't do the theme song. I didn't do it." And then like one day he's like, in an interview one day he's like, "I didn't do it." Literally the next day he's like, "Just kidding. I totally did the theme song. I wrote it in one day. I'm amazing." And it's like,
yeah, I wrote it in 20 minutes.
And it's like, yeah, it's like, and then here's like and it's like they made it sound like, oh, here's the big drop, and you go to listen to it, and it's not the big drop. The reveal was like the cover art or something, or the name of it or something, and they were like, okay. And then the song came out, and it was so.
It's just a Sam Smith song.
Yeah, I was like. Okay, like, this is what we've been waiting for this whole time? I don't know. I mean, not like I'm, like, super invested in Bond theme songs by any means. Or that I even could tell you... Didn't Adele do the last one?
Yeah. That was awesome.
I like that one, yeah.
So it's like, I don't know. I mean, anyway, it was just... Man, I think we feel like the whole, like, hoopla surrounding it was stupid. And so then when it came out, it was like they tried to build up this, like... I don't know, like, it's not the movie. It's a 3-minute song. Let's not get it, like, twisted, like, this is going to be the big thing, I don't know, anyway.
Yeah.
That's it. For me, the trailer's a little underwhelming. But, Kristen, do you have a distinct opinion on that?
I think it looks super cool. But I love those kinds of movies. I love generic spy movies anyway, so I feel like I'm not the right person to ask about this. Corey, who, like, hates spy movies, I'm like, I feel like you need to be wowed. Where I'm like, oh, there's a spy and a code name, I'm totally
Kristen, I'm right there with you. Yeah. I'll see anything even remotely involving spies.
Anytime me and my friends are doing anything where we're, like, trying to be a little bit sneaky, I'm like, here's the code name for the operation. I'm going to be Phoenix, you're going to be Outlander, here's how this is going to go down. You know what I mean? And I have, like, all of these things, and my friend's like, please stop. I'm like, oh, no, I can't. This train has already left the station.
We've come too far now.
The music's playing in my head already.
Yeah, I already have my outfit picked out. I know my whole backstory. I'm like Jake from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I'm like, I'm a tortured soul whose mother was murdered by, gypsies. Anyway, I'm super excited. Plus, I love Daniel Craig so much that I just have this, like, love for him. And his eyes are just so piercing. I remember my brother and I... Casino Royale was just on TV, and we were getting ready to leave for somewhere, so we were watching, it was starting, and he's... like looking into the sun at some point at the very beginning, and Chad goes, wow, those eyes really catch you. I was like, first of all, I love you so much, and I know, right? I totally do, so I'm excited.
It's true. Yeah. No, I'm going to see it. I mean, that's clearly going to happen, but it's less exciting to me than it could be if it was more of a what kind of trailer. But there's still time. We may get a really...
Who's directing it?
That's a good question. I actually don't know who's directing that one, and I'm afraid to click away lest I lose my box. Okay, you click away. You figure out who that is, and I'll figure out what else.
Let's go on to the next one.
Oh yeah. So it turns out that there is going to be a prequel to The Shining made, and it's called Overlook Hotel, which is clearly
Sam Mendes.
Sam Mendes.
He did.
That's old husband.
Yeah, that's the one. Old husband, like she used him up, and that's it.
He did. What's it called? Oh God. American Beauty and
such things.
Road to Perdition and but he did one of the other Bond movies too. But he got to start doing these sort of like Sam Mendes. I think he either Quantum of Solace or Skyfall. I can't remember which one.
Oh, okay.
God, what's the other one? I'm totally forgetting.
He did do Skyfall. You're right.
Okay, there you go.
Skyfall. Yeah.
Oh, and he does.
Yeah, he's good. Road to Redemption Road. What's that movie with Leo DiCaprio?
Revolutionary Road.
Revolutionary Road. I was like, it's definitely something with an R.
Yeah, and he did Jarhead. Oh, and apparently doing the next James Bond also, apparently, allegedly.
Well, that was the question. You mean as in like the next?
Yes, sorry. Yeah. Bond 25 rumored, announced.
Okay. Nice.
He actually hasn't directed that many movies. Shockingly. Like, we just named all of his movies other than Jarhead. Oh my gosh, I did Away We Go. One of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah. He did Away We Go? Really?
Yes. I forgot. Okay, I love him. This movie's going to be the best movie of all time. I forgot to tell you it's going to be incredible. So.
Yeah, he's good.
You know what they should have had is they should have had Alexi Murdoch or whatever do the soundtrack. That guy.
Who's Alexi Murdoch?
He does all the music in Away We Go, and it's like this.
One of those, like, the name. It's a Bond movie with the Away We Go music.
How amazing would that be? I feel like it would be so great. I would actually kind of
a lot of scenes of Bond in like diners and walking down the sidewalk, sort of in living rooms talking to his friends.
He's just like sitting. Yeah, it's like, oh gosh. It's a different kind of Bond movie. Last time was really exciting, so this time it's like a day in the life of Bond.
We're gonna bring it down a notch.
He's just like trying to date, like he's just a single guy in London.
He's like, I'm tired of dating all these hot women. I want a regular girl.
It's gonna be about a boy with James Bond.
He meets his single mother in the diner that he frequents.
I mean, that would be a pretty phenomenal troll if they released a Bond movie with, like, an opening sequence of action, so they put that in the trailer, and then the rest of it is just him trying to date and, like, dealing with, like, menial family issues. And, like...
His mom's like, coming over for Sunday tea, and he's like, oh, Mom.
When are you going to give me a grandbaby?
But then he has to hire the lady at the diner and her genius son. Oh man.
I would see that. in a second.
Okay, I'm gonna add this to my next letter that I send to the Bond execs.
This could be our like Lizzie Bennett diaries, where it's like people make web series about like books and movies they like. Ours is gonna be like just James Bond and like
James Bond
going about his life. Because you gotta figure, I mean, if we're seeing like a case every 3 years or so, that's like a big deal. Like, what's he doing?
He must have downtime. Like, what are his hobbies?
Yeah, he's just like hanging
out. He's gotta escape. I mean, we watch his movies to escape, so he must do something to escape that craziness.
Has that ever really been done? Have they ever done like in a franchise movie looking at like the
Spy in the off season?
Yes, exactly. I think there's something there. That could be. I mean, in the hands, that could be great.
Yeah. In the beginning of a lot of these spy movies, I suppose that's sort of what they allude to, because they're always somewhere like by a beach with a naked woman in their bed, and they walk outside, and then all of a sudden someone shows up.
Yeah, because they're living the life. It's like in White Supremacy. That him, they got out. Mm-hmm. So they're like living this normal life, and it's so wonderful. And then she,
Yeah, and then, what he was trying to do with, like, Vesper and, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So, I don't know. But I want to see the Spy in the Off-Season movie. That's all I'm saying.
Absolutely.
Oh, gosh, that'd be so good. I feel like it would look a lot like This Means War.
Yeah, that's a good point. This Means War is Spies in the Off-Season. You're totally right. Oh, man.
And once again, Tom Hardy.
I'm not familiar. What is that?
Oh, my gosh, Seth, you need to watch it. It's the most magical thing in the entire world.
Oh, my God. Okay.
Your dad would probably like it.
He would. It's a romantic comedy and spies at the same time.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and it's Tom Hardy.
It's Tom Hardy.
Yeah, Tom Hardy and Chris Pine are two
Tom Hardy
spies.
Being literally the most endearingly wonderful, beautiful, special, precious human in the whole world. I love him.
Seth, she punched me so much while we watched this movie. She couldn't control her feelings, and she had to punch me at like a dead arm afterwards.
Oh my gosh.
That's definitely worth checking out then.
Yeah.
How do y'all feel about the Shining prequel?
We read. No feelings, so you guys can talk.
You have no feelings. Well, Kristen, we did read the sequel book to The Shining.
No, remember, I didn't read it.
You didn't read it at all?
I read like the first 10 pages and I was like, nope.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
But
so
you can
maybe
talk
not.
about it.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't know. I think that good things can come of this because it's a book/movie that lends itself to whatever came before. Because I mean, you have this ending with discovering like, oh, Jack Nicholson's been there the whole time, and all this kind of stuff. So I don't know. I think it depends on how they do it, really.
Yeah. I mean, I The Shining, as far as I'm concerned, is definitely the best horror film I've ever seen. And it's sort of the gold standard of how you can make a good horror film.
Sure.
I was skeptical, but then I read that article that you sent me on it, and two things made me encouraged. One was that it's based on a deleted prologue that Stephen King wrote to the book, so there's some basis. It's not totally made up from there's some basis in the source material, and it also seems to. I guess I'm just judging this from the title, but if it's called Overlook Hotel, presumably it's about the hotel, and it seems to me that if you're going to try to make a sequel or an offshoot of The Shining, that's what you want to do, because that hotel is an amazing set for a film, and that's sort of. I think that's where there's so much more material to be mined there. So I'm cautiously optimistic. We'll see.
I tend to be interested. Can you just appreciate the way my dog is lying down right now? By the way, that is a ludicrous position.
Dog is ludicrous.
Wait, can you rotate your thingy? I can only see half of him.
There you go.
Piper, what is your life?
Bonkers. I know. It's ridiculous. Anyways, what was I gonna say? Story, Overlook, Stanley. Oh, I love hotel haunting movies and stories in general.
Yes.
So I'm very into it on that level. And I keep imagining. Did you ever see 1408?
Oh my God, so good,
I love 1408, and so I think
of 1408.
In 1408, the way that he's in that room, and there's all these like different people who have died in this hotel that keep sort of coming out and haunting him or whatever. Yeah. And that's what you have with The Shining too, is that you have this very rich history of like people who terrible things have happened to that we don't know anything about. And so this is supposedly based around like the 1920s, Overlook through the eyes of its first owner, Bob T. Watson, robber baron at the turn of the 20th century. And so I think like that, I don't know, that lends itself to having a lot of good stuff to sort of take a part of the characters that we are later going to see in The Shining if they choose to do that, I would like to see where some of this came from and the crazy debauchery that had to have happened there.
Yeah, no, you're right. It is a movie. The Shining very much hints at a bunch that you just don't see. You get small bits and pieces, so there's a lot of material to be mined there.
So I'm for it in general. I think even if it's bad, it'll be kind of good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
it'll be appealing in its own way because those kinds of movies can be.
Also, the guy who directed it, Mark Romanek, is he's done mostly music videos, which that can always go one way or the other, but it'll probably have a strong visual aesthetic because most music video directors do. So I'm up.
And the lip syncing will be on point.
True story. Yeah. Oh, and other movie news that's happened. Oh boy, there's a lot of it. First,
I know. Let's do really quick.
Yeah. We'll quickly go through this. Quick. Suffragette cast.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because you sent me it. I'm like, what's the big deal? Because if you look at Carey Mulligan's shirt, her only says,
I'd rather be a rebel.
And I'm like, okay, like who cares? And then I looked over. I'm like, oh God, why? No. Oh.
White women, what are you doing?
Yeah, and I'm white, and I'm like, come on, even I know better.
So there's a photo shoot that came out in a UK publication that has the cast of Suffragette, which is all white women because the suffragist movement at that point was a little bit racist. So, you know, this is the case. And they're wearing T-shirts that say, "I'd rather be a rebel than a slave," which is a quote from an actual speech, right? But out in the context of the 21st century, of these women wearing this shirt in a modern fashion spread, what?
Yeah.
There had to be another quote that she said that was inspiring.
It's
right?
just, yeah.
That would have been culturally relative at this point. I just refuse to believe she didn't say anything else. I feel like in the trailer even she said something that's like, "Now is our time," or something.
Yeah.
Put that on a shirt. Like, anything.
It's especially frustrating because you could communicate the sentiment they were going for without, like, which is, like, better to rebel than just sort of sit down and not do anything about to make a situation better, right? But without using such astonishingly tone-deaf reference points.
Well, and this is one of those things that I think we mention a lot, is that you have, I mean, Hollywood being considered this sort of liberal place, and it always is baffling, these blind spots that people have in Hollywood to conversations that are going on so widely. So the idea of, like, feminism being an intersectional pursuit and something that should take into account race and be conscious of that kind of rhetoric and of the exclusions that are happening here, and that they would come out with something like this in a movie that's supposed to be a feminist text and not have any consideration of that at all, and not be able to think about what is happening. And I love the response from the people who, they're like, "No, we had no complaints." Well, what about all of the think pieces written about it? Do those not count as complaints?
No, a million. But in the UK, apparently, or maybe, I don't know, but it was one of those. It's one of those apologies that we hate. It's not really an apology. It's just we're still right. If we could do this over, we would do it the same way. Do it. And you would still be an idiot. And I'm like, I still think maybe that's not true.
It's maddening to me, and I just don't understand how, like, people are so insulated from these conversations. It
reminds me a little bit of everything that's gone on with Bernie Sanders and Black Lives Matter. It's revealing this, like, that within liberalism, like you said, there can be these really just huge blind spots, and also kind of a not saying this is specific to liberalism, but there can be a defensiveness too.
Right.
There's already this feeling of we're fighting the good fight. So if someone points out, "Hey, this was kind of messed up," there's this knee jerk, like, no, but I know my heart's in the right place. I know I'm doing the right thing. So and so it's been unfortunate to watch that play out.
I'm like, guess what? Just because your heart's in the right place doesn't mean you didn't make a mistake. Like,
exactly.
And we're not gonna, your heart's not gonna go in a worse place by admitting that. Like, not owning to the fact that you did something wrong. Like, I'm not expecting you to be perfect in your pursuit of whatever you're doing, because clearly. And I think we say this, I feel like we talk about this every week, so whatever. We're going to keep talking about it.
Keep doing it.
And so, I would hope that people would do the same thing for me. Like, hey, call me out, and then I can say, you know what, you're right. That was tone deaf. That was not a good, we shouldn't have done that. I'm sorry. Correct.
Which is, we had talked about, too,
let's move on.
Well,
anyway,
we had discussed Matt Damon over the past couple of weeks and the sort of tone-deaf things he'd said too, and he was interviewed in the Hollywood Reporter or something like that today, where he had the opportunity to be like, "Yeah, I came across like an ass." He was like, that stuff that I said did not come out the way I meant it to, and he was like, what I said was insensitive the way that I said it. He was like, some of that was, editing and it just came across wrong and things like that. But, at the same time, that's what he got this chance to go out there and be like, yeah, what I said, that was douchey. If you read it the way that I said it,
I'm sorry, he got the chance or he actually did say that? I'm confused.
He did say it, yeah. He said this in Hollywood Reporter.
Okay.
Oh, good.
I wasn't sure if you were about to say, but he didn't take the chance. I'm like, Matt, I just glowed about the Martian.
No, because that was one of the things we said, is like, Matt Damon is usually so good about these kinds of things. Then he keeps coming out with these gaffes, and, this interview with Hollywood Reporter came out, and he was just like, oh, I'm sounding awful. I'm not saying, I'm saying everything wrong, and I don't believe these things, and that's what we like to see.
This reminds me, I sort of arrived at a sort of a criteria for judging public apologies. I'm curious what you guys think about it. If they say I'm sorry, and then the word I doesn't come up within like a word or two, then it's not really an apology, right?
Right.
Like if it's I'm sorry that the reaction to this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry people were upset at this, because then you're not. An apology is admitting you did something. It's not apologizing for a condition that exists in the world.
Right.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, I like that a lot, actually. Let's remember that line. I would write it down, but I have nothing to write with. But you're right, though. That's totally true. It's similar to what we've been saying, Seth, so not as eloquently, though. That's a way better way to put that. That's why we should probably write this up. Like, as Seth said earlier, it's the same thing where it's like right, because they say apology or whatever, they issue one, and then they think if just by using the word sorry that we're gonna gloss over the rest of their statement, and then you read it, you're like, but I feel like you use that word, but you don't really know. You don't use that word. You do not think of me what you think of me.
Yeah. My mom would not have let me get away with this if I had apologized to a sibling like that.
Right? She would be like, let's try that one more time. I'm like, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry you're so sensitive and you didn't understand my joke. It's like, no. I'm sorry that I said a terribly awful thing. I am at fault.
Yeah.
You're right.
Mea culpa. There we go.
Come on, people.
Suffragette people, get your act together. Also, in a different kind of news entirely, The Walk, the movie with Joseph Gordon-Levitt and his terrible French accent, but that also has James Badge Dale, so I'm totally going to see it.
Oh, gosh. Well, no, you shouldn't. You're going to throw up.
I'm going to bring a bag. It's going to be okay. No worries. It's been making people puke. The Walk has genuinely been making people throw up, and I think that's hilarious. I'm just going to say it.
If you go to that movie, I think you kind of you sign up for that a little bit.
You sign up for it. I mean, to the unknowing people who were amongst the first audiences, I'm sorry. Now, if you go and you throw up, it's on you. Right. The other day, I was at my brother's house, and his wife legitimately, we were talking about movies and stuff, and what we'd seen. I said I'd seen Everest and all that, and she was like, "Oh, I want to see that movie that makes everybody throw up." It's like,
you're like, okay.
Yeah. No, but it is in a weird way a brilliant sort of marketing, because it's speaking to the realism of the film, that when you watch it, you feel like you're on this wire with this guy. And the reviews I've read of it too have talked about how it's not just the camera work and looking down, but also the way that Joseph Gordon-Levitt embodies being in that position. It's well acted in that way that you believe him and his movements and things like that feel like, you're experiencing vertigo with him and so forth. And so I don't know. It actually, it's in 3D. You can watch it that way too, which will increase the vertigo, I'm sure.
Oh my gosh, I'm getting nauseous thinking about it.
I know, right?
We went to go see The Martian. We went to Big Newport, which has one of those RPX giant, whatever. And they were showing The Walk, which I was super disappointed. I was like, I want to see The Martian in there. So we walked in, and we just my friend's like, just poke your head in so you can see the screen and see all this. So we poked our heads in, but it was the 3D version. So not only was that, and so I'm like, I can understand why you would puke. And it wasn't even, it was like the guy sitting around a table, I'm like, I'm going to puke. I can't even watch it, But it was because it was blurry and the screen was big, but it was funny. And I was like, ugh. But so the one part I watched was them, with all of them in their terrible accents. I'm like, oh, jeez.
Yeah, I don't, it's bad. I understand. This is one of those things where you're like, why couldn't they have cast a Frenchman or something like that? But you're like, I think it's Joseph Gordon-Levitt's passion project though, and
probably
so he cast himself.
I know. I'm just sorry, Joseph. We love you still.
Did either of you see Man on Wire?
No, it's been one of those things I see on Netflix all the time, but I never actually watched it.
That's the documentary on which about the guy it's based on. Yeah.
Pierre Petit, is that his name?
That is his name.
Sounds right. Yeah. Did you see it, Seth?
I did. I wasn't crazy about it. I didn't. But it makes me more want to see The Walk actually, because the character they interview the dude Pierre Petit. And he came across as kind of a jerk, I thought. But
well, he's French.
obviously he already thinks he's better than you.
Yeah. Sorry, French listeners.
I'm a quarter French, actually, so I'm a...
You're quarter French?
Yeah, and my last name is Lateral.
That's
but
true.
that's not how you say it in French, I'm sure, obviously.
No,
but, you
know. Not
anyway,
so much.
Keep going, Seth. Uh-oh.
I don't think Seth can keep going, and I love the freeze face.
Me too. It is an epic freeze face.
It's a really good freeze face. Oh, there we go. Seth, your frozen face was amazing right there.
Oh, I hope it was that preserved. Did I freeze again?
Yeah, but you're good, I think.
You're good.
Okay. Yeah, anyway, the point is Joseph Gordon-Levitt is notably not a jerk, at least his character is. I'm very curious to see how they do the deal with the character with him. So yeah, I'll see it.
Yeah, I think I will if it comes anywhere near me. It won't be in IMAX or anything like that in this area because we don't have that. But hopefully, I will get a chance to see it.
Yeah, I'm more excited though about the 2 Mad Max sequels.
Yes.
Wow, you guys are more optimistic about this than I am.
I mean, there's part of me that feels like the first one is just so flawless and just such a it's just perfect in what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah.
There's kind of like what could they do, but there's people much more creative than I who would figure out what to do.
Well, and that's the thing. Yeah, sorry, keep going.
No, go ahead.
That's what I liked about the story, where it's like, it took George Miller so long to make this one that he's like, so now I've got enough material for all these other movies because I've spent so much time thinking about it. And so for me, it's similar. I'm actually kind of liking it to the way that because now I've just watched this interview with Andy Weir, so this is why all of my stories have to do with him, where it's like he daydreams about these ideas of going to Mars and these ideas that he has of space and all these things. So I feel like George Miller is similar in that aspect where he gets so immersed in this thing that he's got a passion with and these characters that he loves so much that he's now developed this whole world around it. And I was excited where he's like, the next one won't be as frantic as the first one, which I mentioned. It was like getting punched in the face, but I liked it and was like, I would like to be punched in the face again. So I think it'll be interesting to see how they differ, and I don't know, I trust him, actually, is what it comes down to. Fair. He did such a good job with this one that I trust him to be very true to like the sequels and like true to the characters and what he's so invested in it. It's not like he's getting this story from someone and like, oh, I really like it. He's like, I've written this is my baby, I'm going to continue on with it. And I don't know, just for me, he doesn't seem like he would just make it just because. It's like, so long trying to get this Fury Road made that it's like, if it wasn't something that he really believed in, I don't think he would keep going. And so I just refuse to believe it's going to be terrible. Plus, I can't not be excited. If I even let the pessimism sneak in, that would just be terrible. So I'm just going to be blindly optimistic and like I'm not going to care what people say, and I'm going to say like screw you, like.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
No, and that's all good points. I think it does make a difference. I mean, that this is his baby and his project and his set of stories that he's trying to tell. Because I think, if you look at, people who do craft things like J.K. Rowling or your Tolkien or, any of these people who do like series of things, they often have an entire world that they've created in their minds. And it's just how much story can I tell and things like that. So I guess I do trust that he has ideas for stories that he has wanted to tell and things like that, and that it's not just money grab, cash grab to make more movies for this. Because my thing is always like, a lot of times when these sequels get put out to things that were wildly popular, it's often more motivated by the production, the studio being like, okay, can you make us more of these, as opposed to the person who made it being like, can I make you more of these?
Right. Well, it's similar because he even said like he turned down doing the next Man of Steel.
Yeah.
Which. It's a Superman movie, so people are automatically going to see it, regardless of whatever. And he's like, no, I don't want to do that. Like, I want to focus on, like, these other. I'm like, oh, you're so wonderful and adorable. I love it. And your little glasses are just so cute. I just love it.
It's also, the first Fury Road is really not, and I don't say this as a knock on it at all, because I love it, but it's not like a very story-centric film. I mean, there's a plot, but it's about the immediacy of what's going on, as opposed to, a very complex plot. But it's also, there's a whole bunch of stuff that's hinted at that you're just seeing little glimpses of. So
like why do the war boys have tumors, and like what is going on with the mothers, and
how did Immortum Joe rise to power? I mean, there's so many questions, right? And it's
why is it's like what's with you're right.
Did he come into being? And what's cool is that so then the result is you have this world that you see a glimpse of that seems infinitely expansive, but he's not really bound plot-wise to. It could be another like chase movie that just explored different aspects of the world, or went about it slightly differently, and that could be really cool. So I'm hoping he doesn't get too, I don't know, try to do more than needs to be done, because I think Fury Road is kind of simple and straightforward in a really, really good way, and that's part of why it's so good. But Kristen, I mean, I agree. I even if my cynicism or pessimism creeps in, I'm going to be so ridiculously excited to see these movies when they come out.
Indeed. Okay, that's so fair. Good. All right, so moving on, we'll rush through things. We just have so much fun talking to each other. It gets out of control.
This is great. I'm having a blast, guys.
Yeah. Quick rant for me here, moving on into our pop culture news. You guys have heard of the Splat, right?
Yes.
We have.
Splat, the overnight Nickelodeon network. I don't know why they keep calling it a network when it's like 6 hours of television or whatever.
It's like TGIF, basically.
Yeah, it's like an extended TGIF that goes all night. But I was all excited. It premiered yesterday with the Pete and Pete shorts, Ren and Stimpy, You Can't Do That on Television. I can't remember what else was on it, but I was stoked. I went out of my living room. I was ready, sat down to watch it, and discovered it's actually on Teen Nick and not Nickelodeon.
Why?
Nope. This seems counterintuitive because
Teen Nicks don't know what's going on.
Right, because it's like, think about it. If you subscribe to Teen Nick, it's probably because you have teenagers, not because you're a 30-year-old who watched Nickelodeon and wants to see these kinds of things.
Yeah.
Why would you put it?
That's crazy. They skipped the one demographic that wants to see that.
Right.
If you're watching Teen Nick, either you're a teenager, in which case you weren't watching this in the 90s, or you're a parent and you weren't watching this in the 90s. That's crazy. Maybe the point may be because they want to drive subscriptions towards Teen Nick, but I can't even I went through my cable thing and I can't even actually subscribe to Teen Nick. Oh no! So you didn't even get to watch it?
No, that's not a thing I can possibly subscribe to in my cable thing. So I'm like,
that's a travesty.
Right, so I got all excited about this. I got so angry that I went and I periscoped about old school Nickelodeon last night, which was fun, actually. Then I got to have good conversations with people about Nickelodeon, and Periscope is my new addiction, so it was fun nonetheless. But I was still very angry that I didn't get to see this. So PSA, you guys, it's on Teen Nick.
I read a review of it on, I think it was on the Daily Dot, and he said
how do you review the Splat?
Right. It was sort of more of a...
Stuff you watched in 1996.
Totally holds up.
It's great. It was good then. It's good now. It was more of a sort of a personal essay about what it was like rewatching that. And he said, he was sitting there, and the first thought he had was like, man, this would be great if I was stoned. And then he thought, wait, having that thought sort of spoils the experience. I feel like I've spoiled my childhood by tarnishing it with this, adult thing. I'm kind of wondering. I'm a little afraid to watch them because what if I watch? I haven't seen Salute Your Shorts in 20 years. What if I watch it and it just kind of sucks?
It's terrible. There are some of them. The thing is, I have watched a lot of these things in that time. I own box sets of a lot of this stuff, and a lot of it was on Amazon Prime for a while before they brought this back. So there's stuff like Salute Your Shorts is hit or miss. Hey Dude is a little when you watch it now, but other things I find Are You Afraid of the Dark pretty much just as scary, even though it's cheesy now as I did then. And Pete and Pete is still as brilliant and weirdly subcultural as it always was. And Hey Arnold is even better now than you understand politics and social, issues and things like that than it was back then. So personally, I don't feel like it's going to be hugely disappointing. But It depends.
That gives me a little hope. There's also always the fear when you watch anything from even like 10 years ago, but definitely 20, that there's going to be some like flagrantly racist or sexist or homophobic stuff in there that like, just back then just kind of slipped right through and no one thought about it. Now you're like, haha, oh.
Now we're like, issue a real apology where you don't apologize for our feelings, but you actually did.
So true. No, that happens. I did say that last night, that even with Hey Arnold, I find to be like an extremely progressive text, but also at times, because it's dealing with so many different ethnicities and things living together, it hits on some stereotypes and things that you're like, But I still give it points for doing something that other things weren't doing at that time, which was dealing with race and poverty and inner city life and things like that.
I should check it out. I haven't seen that since it was on the air, and I didn't catch any of that at the time.
Right? I didn't realize, maybe because I was a poor kid also when I was watching this, but I didn't realize it was about poor kids until I watched it as an adult, and I'm like,
this is why I related so much to the show.
I get it. This is amazing. But yeah, anyway, that's my thing about the Splat. But also sort of in a reminiscent way, Will Smith has a new single.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's happening in it? He doesn't even laugh.
Yeah, there's no ha-ha, ha-ha.
That was what I was most disappointed about. I know that's ridiculous. And he doesn't, he's not telling us the plot of his movie, which I'm assuming I thought it's going to be like, I'm a doctor that figured out that concussions, my God. I was like, that was his first new movie.
That was kind of a deep cut right there, because I feel like a lot of people probably haven't seen the trailer for Concussion yet.
I haven't. I thought you just made that up. Like, that could be a Will Smith movie.
Concussion is a new movie with Will Smith where he's, because you know about how now there's all this stuff about football players, and basically football's a death trap, and it's causing people all these problems, and so he's the doctor that discovers this and tries to make a change, and the NFL is screw you, and tries to get him out.
Yeah, this song it's hard to describe. It sounds like he's not even there almost.
Right, it's not even really a song. It's like a beat that he sometimes jumps in on.
Yeah, he's weirdly vacant. It sounds like he's a ghost or something. I don't know how to describe it.
No, that's a perfect way of describing it, and I'm glad you said it that way, because after I listened to it, I actually was like, I don't remember anything about, I don't remember him on it.
Yeah.
Which is a weird feeling, and I am an unabashed Will Smith rap fan. I can do the Big Willie Style album and Will all that stuff. What's that?
Willennium or Will
Willennium or Will 2K, whatever the case it was. Yeah, all that stuff I can do back to front, and I was excited, and I was just so disappointed.
Yeah, it has the whole song has a feeling of like a roller coaster going up and up and up and up and up and up and up, and then it's just done, and you're like,
okay. Yeah, well, I'm still here.
I feel like I can't even talk about it, because I honestly don't even. As soon as it was over, I forgot that it happened.
Yeah.
It was.
I was like, okay, yeah, you're right. I remember it being kind of there's a beat. I do remember he was rapping in Spanish.
Yeah.
I remember that, but then I don't remember anything else. Was there a hook? I don't think so. There didn't seem to be any kind of chorus.
Yeah.
There was nothing.
Yeah, because even
catchy.
Even in the later years of stuff when we weren't really paying attention to Will Smith, Switch, it's still super catchy, even if it wasn't played all the time. So this is just a weird, I don't know what he's doing here. Yeah. The Smith family is going crazy. That's all I'm saying. I don't know what's happening with those people.
Anyway.
Yeah. In better news,
Jaws 19.
Jaws.
I got a kick out of this one. I liked it a lot.
I got a big kick out of it.
I thought it was really funny.
Yes, we have finally reached the point at which when your Facebook friends post that thing saying today is the day from Back to the Future, they will not be lying, and it will not be Photoshopped. That's actually happening, what is it, October 23rd? Is that what October 19th or something like that?
Yeah,
October 19th. It's coming up that it'll be, the 30 years in the future from Back to the Future 2. And so they're doing all these sort of you can go see it in the theater and everything. And there's a new Pepsi bottle for, based on the movie. And they put out a trailer for Jaws 19, which, if you recall from the second movie, Marty McFly is walking through Hill Valley, and he sees that on the marquee, and it's like, this time, what is it? This time it's personal.
Yeah.
This time it's really, really.
This time it's really personal. Yeah. And all of a sudden, like, the big 3D shark comes out, and he's like, ah, because he doesn't know what 3D things are, and so they made a trailer, which is brilliant.
It's one of the clever things about it I noticed is that because the format for the trailer is it says like Jaws made you afraid to go in the water, Jaws 2 made you afraid to go back in the water, and it goes through all of the Jaws sequels, but of course most of them don't exist, so they were just making things up. And
Robo Jaws.
The things
I
they
like
made
the
up.
Russian Jaws. What was it? Jaws.
Yeah.
What do you call him?
Oh, Ivan Sharkovsky.
That's what it was. I was like, oh my god.
What was brilliant about it was that the fake plots that they hinted at a lot of them are actual plots for sequels to because the communist thing came up in was it Rocky 5 or Rocky 4?
It's 4, right?
I think it's 4, yeah. And then like in space, time travel in the future, that's they had like
50
Jason
Shades
in
of
space.
Jaws or whatever that was. A Mysterious Stranger, that whole one. I was dying with that one too.
I was just my only complaint is that I was a little disappointed that I won't actually get to see Jaws 19. I would like to.
I know. There's a moment I was like, why isn't this a movie, or at least like a short? Like, can they put it on Sci-Fi Channel during Shark Week?
Yeah.
Jaws 19.
I feel like someone's got to do it.
Yeah. There also was, I don't know if you guys saw it, but this week, too, someone came out with a Back to the Future 4 trailer.
Oh,
and
no.
it's like all these different things cut together from like commercials and whatnot. It was like really convincing. I watched it with my class the other day, and we were like, wait, well, this isn't real, but what is it? Very confusing.
Did it look good?
Well, it's Back to the Future. It's Marty and Doc, and everything's good, so I would watch it. I would totally watch it. And then the other thing that was interesting in the news this week, just a little cultural thing, ModCloth, everybody's favorite place where you can actually buy clothes that fit you, has retired the plus-size terminology in favor of extended sizes, which may sound like it's just the same thing, but they basically put it as it's not, something special. Ooh, I got mail. I got mail! It's exciting. I'm sorry. Anyways, but as it being like something that's sort of all-encompassing of like they can't necessarily in every single thing they have offer, a 4XL or things like that. Sometimes they just can't do it, but it's not because this is an excessive size. It's just a range of options that, beyond the small through extra large that are normally sold. So I thought that was kind of a cool little move on their part to just like they put it as they're like, we're not perfect, but we're making a statement here about what this means.
Well, I read that article. They said they're retiring the term plus size and replacing it with something like extended.
Yeah, it was extended size. Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds better to me.
Extending the options.
It's like I'm a guy. I don't know. I buy my T-shirts online. I thought it was cool, and I liked the story of how it was like if you had two friends that wanted to go shopping together, there's like we have this, they have this event where they're like, you can go and you guys can get similar clothes, and it's not just because you have to wear a bigger size doesn't mean you want to forfeit fashion, or it's like doesn't mean you want to wear a muumuu just because you're a size that isn't necessarily.
It doesn't mean you want to forfeit shopping with your friends too.
Right,
exactly.
And that's a different section or a different store,
which was cool, and so I always enjoyed that, and I always thought it was funny growing up. I had a friend who did modeling or whatever, who was now smaller than I am. So I'm about 5'7". She's probably 5'5", but like in like I would say normal, not model skinny, but she was always a plus size model, which I thought was hysterical because I'm like, I'm sorry, what? And she'd show me the pictures, and I'm like, okay, but you're a normal size person, like just because you're not a size 0 that you're a plus size model now. It was always so bizarre to me, and so and that is an extreme, anyway. And so it always just baffled me that we even had to have that, and so I thought it was cool, and I like what what they're trying to do with that. So I think props ModCloth.
Props ModCloth. Well played. Moving on to our science portion. At the end of our show, we like to hit you with a little bit of what's been on the science blogs and whatnot.
and so we'll begin with Chris Pratt.
We'll begin because I've considered making a full Chris Pratt corner, and then I was like, well, we'll just squeeze it in with the science this week because it has to do with the zoo. Chris Pratt's son got to name a penguin. What do you name that penguin, Kristen?
Eagle!
Eagle.
What?
I love that. I love it.
Everything about it.
It's so cute.
That is clear. He is his father's son right there.
I was going to say, he has imparted his sense of humor to his child pretty quickly.
And Anna Faris is trying to reason it. She's like, because he's a flightless bird and, it's aspirational to fly like an eagle.
I just realized that I just gave sole credit to Chris Pratt for that when I should not have, because Anna Faris is hilarious and has been hilarious since Scary Movie 1, 20 years ago.
That just feels like more of an Andy Dwyer-ism to name a penguin after a different bird.
Yeah.
It's like that time when he wrote that song for April called November. And you're like, oh.
Exactly.
And so... there's a little video, so we should link to it because there's the video of the three of them sitting. It looks like they're on their front porch
on a
at
deck,
home.
a porch swing or something.
Yeah, so we got to name the penguin, and what do we name him? And they're elbowing, Jack, dude, bro, go. And he's looking at them, and he's like, Eagle the penguin, and it's so spazzy and so cute.
Yeah, and just very little kiddish.
Very little. It's just adorable. So check it out. It'll be one of your feel-good sciencey.
I used to have a shirt that said it has a picture of palm trees and beaches on it, and it says Oklahoma. And that's a similar kind of cognitive dissonance that I think
That's true.
Or it's don't you have a shirt that has the wrong quote from
Get to the helicopter.
Yeah, I do. It has a picture of Schwarzenegger from Predator with the quote, "Get to the helicopter."
And didn't we determine the picture was from
Yeah.
It was
It's from, the picture's, oh God, it's from the wrong movie.
It's from the wrong movie. I can't picture it right now, but it's delightfully confusing. And we were at a party, Seth and I, a month or so ago, and he was wearing this shirt, and I looked at it and I was like, does that say get? Well, I think what I actually said was, wait, is the line get into the helicopter? There it is. Yes.
I'm not sure what film it's from, but I
Commando or something like
that? That's it, Commando.
I think it was Commando.
I wore that shirt specifically because I knew you were going to be at that party. I was like, Corey will appreciate. 1 out of 10 people will think the shirt is funny. 9 out of 10 won't even realize it's wrong.
Yeah, this was the thing that confused me. He was like, nobody ever notices this. I'm like,
I had a couple people, and I don't come up and at a bar or whatever, see it and go, oh, got to the chopper, and I'm like. But did you not? It doesn't say that.
It doesn't say that.
It's not what this shirt says.
I bet they're probably thinking, oh, this guy got a cheap knockoff version.
Right.
He doesn't realize it's the wrong quote, but I'm just not going to say it.
He bought it from the guy in the parking lot, not the legit vendors at the concert.
Seth, do you remember off the top of your head what that website is called? Because in case people want what is it?
It is, I think it's called Slightly Wrong Quotes.
Slightly Wrong Quotes. You guys, these are hilarious. I was crying, laughing, scrolling through the shirts on this.
It's slightlyWrongQuotes.tumblr.com. And it just has a bunch of shirts and posters where the quote is just a little bit off.
It's amazing. I love it. So check that out. And then the one last interesting piece of science news, it's actually more of a science news than naming a penguin at the zoo. You guys, animals have returned to Chernobyl, in large numbers.
Are they flying when they shouldn't be?
Yeah, that's my thing. It's
how many heads do they have?
Yeah, I'm assuming these are like mutations from Hunger Games or whatever.
Oh my gosh!
And I love
the eyes of their deceased owners.
Right? Yeah. Here's the thing: is that in this article, one of the things that makes me laugh is it's talking about the fact that basically. Since people don't live there anymore, wolves especially are coming back in large numbers to this area. And I love that the scientist feels the need to clarify, we're not saying that radiation is good for animals.
The quote, I have it open right now, that was my favorite part too. He says, quote, "This does not mean radiation is good for wildlife. It's just that the effects of human habitation, including hunting, farming, and forestry, are a lot worse."
Yeah, like, oh, burn, humans, burn.
You can blow up the landscape with nuclear weapons, but just don't let humans do what they do, because that would be disastrous.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bizarre story too, and they found that the animals live equally in the parts that are radiated,
Mm-hmm.
that whatever the word is, as they do in the parts that aren't contaminated, and so that's fascinating. But they haven't had a chance to really look into like what this has for long-term health problems for these animals and things like that, because obviously like the animals don't know there was a problem here.
Right.
You know, but I imagine
the animals are like, sweet, they all laugh.
Yeah. Woo! Yeah, exactly.
He's like, we're going streaking.
Yeah.
Two interesting bit of Chernobyl trivia.
Ooh, okay.
One is that so when it had the meltdown, the remnants of that, which is a mixture of I think uranium and molten concrete and some other thing, and whatever was in the laboratory, it's called the elephant's foot because it looks like it's just a melted chunk gob of thing that looks like an elephant foot. It's still radioactive. It's still sealed off, and it is so radioactive that now, and I can't remember how Chernobyl was. Oh God, it was over 20 years ago. 30 shit, I'm going to embarrass myself. Anyway, the point is now, if you spend 5 minutes in the vicinity, in the same room as the elephant's foot, you will die. That is how radioactive it still is.
1986.
86.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought it was like 30 years ago, but I didn't want to sound stupid, so I didn't say it.
Well, I was correct. It was over 20.
It was over 20 years ago. That's true.
But this is the crazier thing, is that there is a subculture. I'll put this link in the chat.
Oh, great.
There is a subculture in Russia of daredevils who sneak into the Chernobyl exclusion zone and just sort of hang around and drink the water that flows through the streams.
That's like the weirdest daredevil thing, because it's not like it's one thing if it's like you would immediately die, but instead it's like, well, let's just see what happens in 20 years.
Maybe I'll become the Flash. You're like,
and maybe I won't
get cancer and die a horribly violent death.
Maybe I won't know the results. What happened is because of this. Maybe it was. Maybe it was. Yeah, it's a strange daredevil activity.
That is the weirdest stunt I have ever heard of. So people are weird, but
yeah, don't do that, everyone. We're not endorsing that.
Yeah. We also do. The Fancave also does not endorse drinking radioactive water.
No,
from Chernobyl.
We can all agree.
When you go to visit Chernobyl, do not drink the water.
Kristen, I bet you never thought that you would find yourself speaking that phrase on this podcast.
The Fancave.
You know what? You would not believe the amount of things I never thought I'd say on this podcast.
That's really good. Oh my gosh! And now look at the dog. Look at this guy.
Oh. Wait, here. Turn it around again.
You can't see him right now?
I can see part of him.
I don't even know which is his head in this point.
Okay, well, there's
there he is.
There's the head. He's kind of got his junk flying out there. He
you know what? Dead. Sometimes you just gotta let it breathe, I hear.
Yeah.
Sometimes you gotta let sleeping dogs lie. Yes, sorry.
Right you are, sir.
True that.
You are.
True that. All right. Well, we managed to make it through our topic list. Oh. So, Seth, thank you so much for joining us. This was a delight.
Thank you, guys. This was so much fun. This is great. Thank you for having me. I would love to return for a future.
Yes, any old time. You let us know. And I'll message you again. I messaged Seth this morning. I was like, hey, what are you doing tonight? The answer is being on the Fancave.
And I said, yes, being on the Fancave, because I didn't have plans. So
so it worked out. And if all goes as planned, next week we shall get a visit from everybody's favorite drone professor, Mr. Avery Holton.
Uh-oh.
Yes, Avery weighs a Holton. Yes, we talk X-Files.
We'll have to ask him about it anyway, I guess.
Yes, it'll be great. So, for the Fancave this week, a big thanks to Seth for stopping by, and make sure that you follow us on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, SoundCloud, Facebook, all those places that you can follow a podcast and be social and all of that stuff. We're there. Just find us, Electric Fan Cave, and you can find the blog on electricfeast.com with all of the links to the things that we have discussed this fine evening, if you're curious and want to see for yourself. I believe that's all. So for this week, I'm Corrigan Vaughn.
I'm Kristen Latterell.
And I am Seth Millstein.
Peace out, everybody.
Bye,
Take
guys.
it easy, kids.